Okay, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. We're going to begin with our webinar on remote workplace communication. Obviously, there's been a significant amount of changes in all of our work environments over the past few weeks. I think you'll see through this webinar that most of the solutions we're going to review with you are pretty intuitive. I think iVideo, our clients, whether that's the IT side that is supporting the workplace environments or the direct users of these systems want simple, intuitive tools. So we're going to review a handful of workplace communication systems, all really centered around software solutions. So these can provide for video conferencing, sharing of screens, data, annotation, files, polls. You'll see a whole bunch of good stuff. But again, we wanted to really provide a focus list of communication tools that your teams can use. And so what we have planned for you today is an overview of Zoom, and that's actually the system we're using for this webinar. We're going to review Microsoft Teams, Webex, and Google Hangouts. So it should be a nice overview of a number of very common workplace communication systems. You'll see a lot of different features and options, and I think you'll enjoy the seminar here. It's really meant to just be tip of the iceberg as far as these tools go and overall workplace communication systems. And so obviously we're here to answer any questions and help you out with that. On that note, if you have questions during this webinar, you can put them through the chat bar directly to me at the iVideo. You can put them through the Q&A, and there's also a poll. And so we have this being recorded that we're going to share across our social media platforms. And so if you have an interest in sharing that with any team members of yours, you can do so at a later point in time. So we're going to begin our presentation here, and know that this presentation is being done across 4 remote workplaces. So we have 4 iVideo employees working from their house today, spread throughout Ohio. And we're going to have Greg David begin with Zoom. So Greg, we'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for that introduction, Tim. So today I'm going to talk about just some really basic functionality of Zoom and how to launch your own meeting. I know a lot of you have probably attended webinars or been on other, conference calls, but maybe you've never had to run one on your own. So I'm going to kind of help you out with that. So I'm going to run through Zoom. It's a free software to download. So you just go to their site and you can download it. And then you're just going to launch it like any other application on your PC, or it works on Mac too, any platform you want. So you can just go ahead and hit your start button and then go ahead and launch the application. When you click on that, this is what's going to pop up. It's kind of your home screen here. The first thing you're going to want to notice here is a list of all your meetings. If you have any upcoming meetings, they'll be listed out here. If you don't, these 4 main buttons here are kind of your starting points for doing any other actions with the software. You can start a new meeting, join an existing meeting, schedule a meeting, or share a screen. So today we're going to walk through scheduling your own meeting. So go ahead and click schedule here, and it's going to give you this pop-up window. And it's going to walk you through step-by-step making your own meeting. The topic, pretty self-explanatory. Just name it something important so that people know what they're joining, and it's not a surprise what link they're clicking. What day and time you want to schedule a meeting. So just click a little drop down and choose from a calendar the day and the time that you want to schedule it. And then next up here, the duration. This is kind of important. I want to talk about this for a little bit. If you have a one-on-one meeting, that meeting can last as long as you want. So it's just you and one other person on the far side. But if you have a meeting that's longer than 40 minutes, you'll see when I click that, there's another little pop-up that says your Zoom basic plan has a 40-minute time limit on meetings with 3 or more participants. So this is good and bad. Obviously, Zoom has to tier their software. So if you have a free version of the software, it's only going to have some functionality. If you want to have all the bells and whistles, you're going to have to pay for that. And that's totally fair. They have a great product here, and they need to monetize that somehow. Also, though, 45 minutes should be plenty of time to conduct a meeting. If your meeting is running more than 45 minutes, maybe you should break off into smaller teams and discuss things separately. So that's not really a bad thing to put a time limit on a meeting anyway. The time zone, obviously self-explanatory also, but important to remember. If you're working from home now, somebody might be in California, they're 3 hours behind us. You got to make sure everyone's on the same page. Reoccurring meeting, that's exactly what it sounds like. If you click reoccurring meeting, that's going to schedule this meeting out on your calendar every time. Meeting ID and the password. I usually leave these as is. This is how they pop up by default. Leave it to generate automatically and to require a meeting password. When we go down here and we click this schedule button, when we're all done, it's going to send out an invite to everyone that you want on the meeting. Within that invite, it's going to say the password. So you don't have to worry about anyone not having the password. Only the people that were sent the invite will have the password, and they'll be allowed to get into the meeting. Video and audio. I usually leave these off for the host participants. This allows you to join the video after you've joined the meeting. So you can click join a meeting, get into the meeting, and then it's going to prompt you on a second window, do you want to start your video? This is nice. A lot of people are working from home right now, and you don't want to have that embarrassing moment when you show your screen and you're not ready to. Maybe your room isn't ready to present to the world. So this kind of is a little courtesy to give people an option to join the meeting video after they've already joined the overall meeting. Audio, leave this on telephone and computer audio. This is where it defaults, but that's really the best case. I don't know why you would ever want to do just one or the other. So this allows people, let's say you have an employee on the road and they can't get down and sit in front of their laptop, they can still call in and just listen to the meeting and they can understand what's going on. The calendar here, so this is important to talk about. If you use Outlook or Google, you can have these meeting invitations automatically populate your calendar. And that's a really nice tool. If you don't have those, it's not anything to worry about. You can use any kind of email or calendar platform you want. When you go ahead and click schedule down here, you're going to see this pop up. So your meeting is scheduled. So everything you just did is good. Zoom understands the meeting's ready to go. Now all you have to do is copy all this information and start up a new email in whatever email service you use. Whoever you want in the meeting, put them as the recipients of the email message. And in the body of the email, just copy and paste this text into it. And then when they're ready to join the meeting, let's say 2 or 3 days down the road from now, they just click this join Zoom meeting link right here, and they're going to be taken into the meeting. And then here's the password I was talking about. So pretty easy. They make it, really user-friendly. So boom, voila. 3 days later, we're in our Zoom meeting. Our attendees click this link. This is what you're going to see. It's going to ask you to join your audio and join your video, like I was saying before. This is a really nice feature, actually. I really appreciate this feature on Zoom. Not every video conferencing software does this. You see this right here where it says test speaker and microphone. When you click that, you're going to be taken through some prompts. It's going to play a little tone and say, do you hear this tone? You say yes. And that's going to say speak, and you can say something like test, test, or check 1, 2. And then it's going to play back what you just spoke into the software. That way you know that all your audio is working and then people can hear you, so you can join the meeting confidently and not have those awkward moments where you're like, hey, can you hear me? No, we can't hear you, blah, 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 and you have that little back and forth. You can just go ahead and get fired up right off the rip. So then here is a nice screenshot of me making this presentation. And what I want to draw your attention to, though, when you drop your mouse down to the bottom of the software, this black toolbar is going to pop up. This toolbar is really important. This is really what you want to kind of familiarize yourself with in the software. It's kind of your remote control, if you will, for everything that goes on within the meeting. I'll just work left from right here, but the first one we're going to talk about are the audio functions. So there's this little microphone in the corner here, and when you click that arrow, you get a pop-up. You can choose different mics or different peripheral devices. I think Dale and Matt, our other colleagues on this presentation, are going to talk about peripheral devices a little bit more. What I really want to talk about, though, is just this mute button. Use the mute button. That's really important. If you're on a call with just one person, maybe not a big deal. If you're on a call with 10 people, 20 people, maybe 50 people, if you don't mute yourself and everyone else isn't muting themselves, that call is going to get really noisy and it's going to sound really bad to everyone else on the far side. You might not even be speaking, but there could be dogs barking in the background. Every time you move in your chair might be squeaking, and all these background noises are just going to kind of build up over time and make for a really noisy noisy meeting for everyone. So just go ahead and mute that. It's probably not your appropriate time to speak anyway. Someone may be giving a presentation, so until they're done and you have a chance to comment or ask questions, just leave yourself muted. The only thing to remember, obviously, is to unmute yourself when you are ready to talk so that you're not speaking to no one. Next up here, your video settings. Same thing, you click this little triangle next to the camera icon, and that's where you can select other cameras if you have a nice webcam connected and you don't want to use that built-in camera that's in your laptop. You can just click that and select it. They make it really easy. What I want to talk about here, though, is this choose a virtual background feature. So if you click that, you get a separate little pop-up here. Zoom offers 3 built-in virtual backgrounds. And at first glance, these might seem kind of just like gimmicks, like kind of something funny to do with your friends, and you kind of joke around that you're in outer space or you're in a grassy field or whatever it might be. But these have a real functional purpose. Right now, with everyone working from home, you might not have, be privileged to be working in a nice home office. You might be working out of your bedroom. You might be working in the kitchen, and you don't want people to see your dirty dishes or your messy bed. This kind of just lets people focus on you and what you're saying, and they don't get distracted by what's going on in the background. Also, if you don't want to use one of these, you can upload anything you want. If you see right above here, it says choose a virtual background. You can just click add image and upload something really nice and professional. So I uploaded the iVideo company logo on a JPEG behind myself here. And that way, if I'm somewhere where I don't want people to see my background, everyone just sees a nice representation of me and my company. And you can do this however you want, make a custom image. Moving on here, the screen share. This is a really important feature. I think this is where most of the value that Zoom offers is actually in this button right here. Zoom makes it incredibly easy to share your screen. So all you got to do is go and click that button, and you'll get another pop-up here. And you have a bunch of options. So you can choose to share your screen, which is exactly what it sounds like. Everything you're looking at on your desktop, the far side is going to see. So it's just a mirror image of what you're doing. So if you want to walk somebody through, let's say, how to get somewhere on the server or like do something specific to your company, and they'll be seeing the same thing on their screen, it's a really great tool. However, there might be times where you don't want to share your whole screen and you just want to share a specific application. You can go and let's say you can click on this Word document, and you can click that, and they'll only see that Word document. So they won't see what's going on your desktop if you have a cluttered desktop and you don't really want people seeing the picture of your kids on your desktop or something that might just be a little unprofessional or something like that. They don't have to see that. So they make it really easy to do. This is an example of a screen share. When you do it, your picture is going to be shrunken down, and you're going to see your desktop the same way that everyone else is seeing it. They also offer built-in whiteboarding. So let me back up a hair here. When you go down to click share, you have an option for whiteboarding. When you click that, it's exactly what it sounds like. You get this nice whiteboard here that all of the participants on the other end of the call see, and you can draw on here, do shapes, whatever you want to do. If you have some more abstract ideas that you don't think you can just verbally communicate and you want a visual tool, this is a great way to do it. Moving forward, if you're doing a screen share, there's actually a feature that is extremely powerful. You can annotate right on top of the screen share. It's kind of a combination of the whiteboarding and the screen share. I think this is incredibly powerful. So let's say you're going through a contract with somebody and you're just redlining the contract. You can just draw attention to the specific things you want them to see and really guide the meeting and guide their eyes and just make the presentation a little more succinct and clean. Moving forward, the last thing I want to talk about, there'll be a little more button for you down here on your toolbar. And this is going to open up some other features. Some of this is a little more complicated stuff we don't really need to get into right now. But there's this record button. As Tim mentioned at the beginning of our webinar, we're recording this right now. This is a great built-in feature. I mean, if you have a lot of participants and you don't think you can take notes of everything, instead of having someone designated to take notes, just record the meeting, and then you can go back and look at it anytime you want, and you have a nice built-in recollection of the meeting. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. This is hopefully a good basic walkthrough of Zoom. More features built in. But if you want to have a little more detailed recollection of what's going on in the software, you can go ahead and contact Zoom, and they have all kinds of different plans and options for you. But that's going to wrap up my portion of the meeting. I'm going to hand this over to our Matt Shorba. He's going to walk through some functions of Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to stop my screen share here, Matt, and it's up to you.
All right, Greg, thanks. Let me get my presentation up. 1 second. Okay, so again, sticking with the theme, tip of the iceberg, we're going to walk through just some basics, but also show you some of the most powerful features, hidden gems that are also in Microsoft Teams, just for those of you that are already familiar. So not going to go into detail of how to use all the hidden gems, but just let you know they exist and why they're valuable. So just to get it started, what is Microsoft Teams? It's a way to pull together a team, which is, obviously where they got the name from. And so what you can do is you can, project by project, you can, within an organization, set up a team. Or, if you never have that scenario and everybody's always doing the same thing, you just add everybody in. And what you'll see is that everybody gets a headshot or an avatar, and everybody's available as far as whoever is on your Active Directory. So this is a Microsoft product, so it does integrate with your existing user accounts. You don't have to create new separate accounts. There are no extra plugins. It's basically native. And so the user accounts you have to log onto your computers will show up in a directory, and you can just pick people by name, and you can do a lot of fun things. And so you can start using chat instead of email, which is powerful. And this is their own version of like Slack. And what it does is it allows for real-time communication from any device. So it's not just limited to texting from your phone. You can do it from your tablet. You can do it from your computer. You can also still do it from your phone. And so it's a way to just avoid having to send an email, wait for a reply, send it again. It's a lot more real time, a lot more fluid, a lot more flexible. People just gravitate to it. Plus, they do let you have some fun with it, where you can use emojis and stuff like that. Because their theory, and it's pretty true, is that if you're allowed to have a little bit of fun, you'll be more creative, you'll be more productive. They also have this feature which is called channels, which is where you're going to see file folder usage in an old workflow where everybody, for example, wants to work on the same file. You would used to have to do that synchronously, where one person takes their turn, makes their changes, and then saves it back to the server. Then the next person has to, once that other person is done, get in, open it up, make their changes, and save it back to the server, and so on and so forth. And so you can see how that's a time-intensive, kind of a clunky process. This fixes that, and you basically, once you're on a channel, which again is their version of a project, you can actually see all the annotations and everything, and everybody can be working at their own pace, and they're working on the same doc together at the same time, and they're basically having everything sync up to the cloud, and then you could see what changes people have made. So there's really good change management built in. You can see feedback. You can get likes, thumbs up, thumbs down. You can see comments and something called an @ mention, which is a social media type feel to it. But if you do, for example, @Tim Sizak, I could, on my channel, say, hey, Tim needs to see this, so I'm going to make a mention of him with this @ symbol, and then he'll be looped into the conversation from that point onwards. So it's a powerful way to just keep people in the loop and add new people into your conversation. It's also super secure, and this isn't a representation of everybody's working on the same document at the same time. You can customize this too. There's a ton of apps you can add that are from the Microsoft Teams store, if you will. Some of them are free, some of them cost, but there's a ton to choose from, which is nice. You can link to specific websites. You can do totally custom things with these. So you could, if you pay somebody, you can integrate an application that only your company uses, but you can make this a centralized meeting area for everybody, no matter what app they're using. So it as a workflow helper, it really smooths things out. And because it is in the cloud, again, anywhere you have just regular internet access, you can get to this thing. So again, it enables you to go and work from the grocery store or the coffee shop or from home or from your office. And it's the same exact workflow, same look, same feel. There's no hoops to jump through with VPN. There's nothing to worry about as far as special security settings or I need to be an admin on my device. As long as you have internet access, you'll be able to get to this thing. And I'd mentioned this briefly, but it is fully integrated with Office 365. So it's an extension to that program. And it is an ability to, combine all the nice features that Microsoft has been working up to throughout the years, meaning like OneNote, and Word and PowerPoint. A lot of that stuff is just the best features are rolled into this, and then there's this social element that's been added. So again, they're able to poll your existing users and they'll just automatically populate, and a lot of users can get in and log into this and try it out for free. There's no additional software really that's being installed. They do have a desktop version, but most people will be just fine with the one that runs in their web browser. And one thing that was noted at the bottom of that slide is all trails now will lead to one spot. So a problem in the past when groups have been working on things is that you will have multiple locations where files are saved. The aim of Teams here is to keep that all on one thread where everybody who goes to that file will be going to the same exact spot, which is a powerful thing also. So just some of this sidebar tabs you'll see in Teams is what I've been tabbing through here. And this shows the chat feature. So you can actually dedicate a chat channel to a certain topic, and sky's the limit, whatever you want that to be. And it will appear in their general channel. And then you can make custom channels too, and all the members can contribute. You can do private channels where you don't necessarily want everybody to be able to see them. And you can actually bring in guests. So people that are not part of your organization will actually be able to take part in these. So that could be third-party vendors. That could be just people that are in your organization but not necessarily part of your specific project team. So it's a way to have secure guest access for anybody with a valid email address to where they can then view or edit or however you want to lock it down. So it's much like any other file sharing where you have total control over what they're able to do. They'll be either able to edit or view only and that kind of thing. And so if you have any concerns about security, this is actually one of the most secure ways to share files and collaborate on the planet. And a big part of that is the cloud infrastructure that they're using and all the security tools that are built into Microsoft already. So that's a good thing. The sidebar here is showing the calendar. So that's another powerful way to collaborate where everybody is working off of one shared calendar and they can look at the same deadlines and be working towards the same goal. So that's a nice feature. This one here also is demonstrating that they too have meeting recording. So there's a lot of different reasons to record a meeting, and one of those is for compliance. Some industries that's a concern. The others are for archiving. If it's a training type meeting, not everybody can make it at the same time. There will be a nice recording that you can share out later, which is something we're going to be doing on our webinar today also. And this shows an example of their calls screen. Now, I'll be honest, this is one of the features that not everybody uses. It's because most people already have their own phone trunk, and they already have an existing infrastructure for making phone calls. But if you decide as an organization that you're going to have the calling plan through Microsoft, which is getting more and more popular and the price is coming down, then you will be actually able to do soft phone calls right from your desktop, which is a nice feature. And again, you can add anybody to that. This would also be the screen where you initiate video calling on this platform. So when you go to call somebody, it can either be a voice call only or it can be the video call. And there is a nice feature here which traditionally has been thought of as a nice Cisco Webex feature, but they've added their own version here which is based around Bluetooth, which is called proximity sensing. And so the idea is when we're all allowed to actually go back to our offices, dedicated rooms for video conferencing will be called Teams rooms in this scenario. And what you can do is you could be on your device and pop up the little search beacon, and anybody that's within Bluetooth range, it'll show, hey, this is an available room. And once you go in there, you can have nice features of joining a session seamlessly. Because a lot of times what can happen when you bring a device into a room that's enabled to be its own member of a meeting is your device is bringing in an additional camera and microphone. And so you don't necessarily want to use those. You just want to take part to view the screen share. And so what can happen when you join is your speaker can then feed into the room's microphone, causing feedback. And so a nice thing about this is it will auto-mute your device and optimize it for being a guest in the room and not being the host that's using the microphone and the camera. So that's actually a really slick feature. The next one here is showing the Files tab. And this actually becomes a repository where, say, on a thread, you mention and add a bunch of files in, and it can be, weeks apart, days apart, months apart. If you want to see all those files in one spot, this is where you go, and it's actually a super popular feature. It's really handy. This is a little screen of the App Store that's built in right on the Teams platform. A real popular one is Zendesk, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And there are a ton of other applications. And so the flexibility and the power of this guy just keeps growing, and it will continue to do so. You can see there Trello, which is another project management, very popular app, has integration into it. And as I said, you can also write your own custom integrations. This is a nice feature that not a lot of people know about. It's called slash commands. And so in the top middle of the screen, the window for Microsoft Teams is an action bar / search bar. And if you pop in slash, it'll auto-populate some suggestions for you. And there's a ton of them. And the most popular ones are slash available and slash away. So it's just a way to, without your fingers leaving the keyboard, initiate some actions, and it makes using Teams a lot more user-friendly. So this is a very popular feature, and it, for the people that know about it. So it's well worth sitting down and actually spending some time getting familiar with it. It makes it a lot more productive. This is something exciting that got announced late last year. And a lot of times, the two that you'll see at a workplace the most are Zoom and Teams. And there's a real reason for that. It's because they're the heavy hitters, they have the best quality, they have the best experience, the best integrations, right? And that's just been proven out through time. And so now they've decided to play nice. And so now when you pick Zoom, you're not foregoing involving people on the Teams platform and vice versa. So really what this gets down to is, when you have an office and you want to install a system to where you can have the room itself just be invited to a meeting and able to initiate meetings without necessarily having to bring in your own device, you're going to pick like, hey, do we want this to be a Teams room or do we want it to be a Zoom room, right? And that conversation will happen over time with, asking a lot of questions and, what workflow do we want to decide? It used to be that a negative to that conversation is, okay, well, we're going Zoom, so people with Teams, for example, would have to do a plug-in and sacrifice some functionality and have a really bare bones experience that isn't part of their native, workflow. Now that all goes out the window because you can go with a Zoom room and still have people on Teams have their native experience. So that's actually a really huge deal. The reverse is also true. And so that plays into some nice features of Teams and Zoom, actually, where they have really strong third-party hardware support. So this is just a simple screen grab of the basic packages that are available from the Microsoft website for their Microsoft Team rooms. And this list is growing more and more every day. The company that's not mentioned here that has really awesome products for Teams, which is Poly, and Crestron is listed here. And what's nice about these guys is they also have the same hardware but in a different mode that can support Zoom. So you really can have a really robust set of enterprise-grade hardware, and it'll fully support either one of these platforms. And the nice thing too, speaking about working from home, is if you decide, hey, I want to go to the next level and do some professional sounding and looking peripherals for my home office, just because that's what my clients will demand and expect, is you can actually, for not a ton of money, you can see the price range here, have really robust and nice professional grade hardware in your home office. So that's not going to be everybody, but that will be some of you. Getting close to the end of my presentation, but I did want to talk about artificial intelligence. It is here to stay. I'm sure we all hear from those artificial intelligence bots every once in a while asking, how we're doing and looking to get us involved with other companies. This one here, though, again, the list keeps growing, but these are a couple of fun ones. There's one called T-Bot, which can answer your most basic questions about Teams. Polybot, which is for polling your coworkers. You can do your own version of polling. StatsBot can give you different reports that you select the sources for. And then GrowBot, which lets you send kudos to your coworkers. So it's a way to have an artificial intelligence bot that you actually like. And then finally, I went and polled take this with a grain of salt, because this is a poll of one. But this was a person I know that's been using Teams for quite a while, and they work for a giant company. And so they have some really good, strong opinions based on a lot of use, real-world use with Teams. And so these are his unbiased notes. I didn't really tell him why I was asking. I just was asking him his opinion. So he brought up Planner as a great tool, which is a great point. What that is used for is if you're going to do a project management focus on a channel, you would use this Planner plugin. And the sidebar on the right here shows how to add it to your channel. And it actually is one of those things that is there for people who love and need to keep track of a lot of different things. And as you can see, he says he loves it. It's what he uses the most. And then two, his comment about the video portion was he's not a huge fan. He thinks Zoom has more functionality and is easier to use. So again, take that for what it's worth. And also one little note there is, these being software products, they're getting better all the time. Both platforms constantly release updates. So that's just going to keep getting better and better. He feels the IM tool is just okay. He personally doesn't use calls, and he thinks the file sharing is one of the better functionalities. So down from his comments, a little blurb about how to use and why you would use Teams for project management. Teams will keep everybody looped in. You can easily assign tasks in the planner, and you can track them, and it'll show this task is assigned to this person. It'll have their little mugshot there, so it stays front and center on your mind. It keeps everything easily accessible, again, from any device, and you're all working together towards that shared calendar deadlines. So that's it in a nutshell. And I will kick it over to Dale Kaiser, and he's going to talk about a few more platforms. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate it. Let me get mine set up here real quick. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for joining us today. It's a very enlightening to see so many people attend this call that we put together rather quickly. But we want to be able to help our customers out with the way the world is running right now. First thing I'm going to talk about is a little Cisco Webex. This is more of a proprietary platform that can have a free service to it, or you can go into higher end services as well that have paid levels based on what your needs are. This is just a little screenshot here showing their different packages. The free package is really designed to be used on a personal level, where you can't have up to 100 participants in each meeting, but you only have that one host that you can use. They give you a gigabyte of cloud storage. It's all high-def video, starting at 720p, which is really nice. And as you get into their paid packages, please remember that iVideo, we do not sell the licensing to these soft codec packages. We're just here to give you the information today so you can make any informed decisions you need to make based on your company's infrastructure and how you're working. So you get into the starter kit for the smaller teams. You can have about 50 people in a meeting. You can meet as long as you want. There's no restrictions on time limits. Your storage space goes up to 5 gigs. You can get your recording transcripts, MP4 recordings as well. And you can do the application and file sharing just like in all the other platforms. And as you can see, as you go up in packages, these are per month, per host licenses that are required. You can add in the larger packages, 24/7 customer support, ability to assign alternate hosts, more storage, domain claims, getting everything to work with your Microsoft Exchange and your Active Directories. So these are just little areas that you can look at, and it's important to take note and have a discussion based on what your needs are to see where you would need to be for these different companies. Cisco offers their own systems for Webex. If you don't want to use your built-in laptops, camera, speaker, microphone, they have an all-in-one room kit, which has the speakers, the microphone, and camera all in one little box. It connects to your laptop over USB, and that gives you a little improved workflow. So you can have people sitting around a table just using this one box that is connected to a laptop or a PC. So everybody's getting picked up and everybody can be seen on the camera, and you're not relying on passing around a laptop camera or everybody having their own system in the room. For those people that are, really doing conference calls from their cubicle or their office, there is a peripheral that's a desktop system. Comes with a 27-inch diagonal monitor that is interactive as well, and that also has a built-in camera and the speakers and microphone. You start getting into your larger-sized boardrooms and conference rooms, you can get into doing multi-screens. Typically, you put in two 55-inch diagonal TVs of your choice, side by side. Run the system to this, and on one screen, you're seeing the video participants. On the other side, you're seeing any documentation that's been shared. And they also have their Webex board, which was formerly known as the Spark. Ranges in size from 55 inches to 85 inches. That, as well as interactive. The interactivity is shared across all the meeting attendees. It goes into the recordings. It has the built-in camera and microphones, as well as the speakers. So a real nice system to use. Google Meetings Hangout. This is probably one of the longest platforms that's been out there. As a free version, I know a lot of educational facilities are using this, and when I say that, I mean the K through 12 grades for the most part. Very, very popular in education, but they've made some changes to it, and I just want to clarify a little bit about the different Google products because they have a whole host of them. Google Hangouts is Google's longest running messaging and video chat service. But as of June of 2020, the service will only be offered to consumer accounts, basically anyone with an @gmail.com or @googlemail.com email address. Now, this can be found in the Gmail sidebar and at hangouts.google.com. Google Hangouts Meet is Google's paid video conferencing software that's provided as part of the G Suite, similar to video chat service provided in the consumer Hangouts, but it supports far more participants, and it can be found at meet.google.com. Google Duo is Google's answer to FaceTime, offering one-on-one video chats on mobile devices and computers, and it can be found at duo.google.com. So there are different packages here for the Google Meets as well. Starting out at like $6, going up to about $25. This is all per user per month. The different packages give you, the higher package you go, the more participants you're able to have in there, the more storage you have availability to, and the different different functionality is provided for each. Peripherals for here, Google has approved third-party peripherals that are made by Logitech. Includes the Rally Cam, the PTZ Pro 2, an Aver cam, a Hudley camera, Logitech Meetup, which has the sound bar, microphone, and camera all in one unit. And they also have their own hardware that they offer as well. It has, it's made by Google, and it's the camera is a speaker and microphone all in one piece, similar to the Cisco Cisco items. Google also has a Jamboard, which is a big interactive screen TV that can be used as part of the complete system for annotating, collaborating, and you get your whiteboarding functions on there as well. And there's just a lot of different things you can do with it. It's really nice. That's the end of my presentation at this point. And I'm going to turn it back over to Tim, and we will see about any questions.
Great, thanks, Dale, and everyone for a really nice presentation. I hope that folks found all this information helpful. I do want to note that though iVideo does sell all these different platforms, and you can buy them through us, you can candidly just get them as easy through the software providers. So this is not a sales pitch for iVideo. Pricing is going to be equal between iVideo and the manufacturers. It does not matter to us. If it's more convenient, clearly we would like to help you. Otherwise, you can work with the manufacturers. And so we do have one question, or actually two questions that came in. So the first was saying, is it possible to get a side-by-side document that lists the differences between the admin and user, a checklist of search? Sure, that's something that we can provide and assist and do a follow-up with that information. So certainly appreciate there's a lot of information here. There's a lot of different solutions. Maybe one macro observation that I'd give. Matt hit on this during his presentation. Zoom is a great, in my opinion, video conferencing webinar platform. Microsoft Teams is the same, except much more dynamic. It really is a business tool. Just like we see Office as a business tool, right? And Microsoft Teams, to some degree, is really changing how companies and organizations meet. If all organizations can use it, certainly. I think iVideo has seen more success and more growth of that platform within our Fortune 1000 client list. But it really is. Just a wonderful one. So that's just kind of a quick summary, at least comparing Zoom and Microsoft Teams. There's plenty of other solutions out there. Again, we hit on Webex, Google Hangouts, and so forth. We do have another question that came in. It said, how can I best manage around my house bandwidth? I think they're trying to say, so that can be a challenge for everyone. We're conscious of bandwidth. I think everyone is right now. And so I'll maybe show folks how I'm doing this. So I am the moderator of this call, and we have kept video off, but I'm going to show you how I'm managing the video here. So everyone can see me, they can see my background, but you'll notice I'm on the phone. And so this is a video conferencing phone call. But yet the bandwidth at my house is having limitations of picking up audio through my computer. Video is great and fine, so I'm able to moderate, run the presentation through, but my voice was not as consistent through the microphones on my computer, which is really a bandwidth issue, at our house. And so I think a lot of people are having those challenges. And so one way that you can manage it is you can do an audio call while still watching the video, and manage it like that. So, again, there's multiple ways to manage bandwidth and get around with it. Another common thought or suggestion is that having meetings start at a little bit different times, so 11:15 opposed to 11 would help with bandwidth issues, because not everyone is, the North American network isn't as crowded at a quarter past opposed to directly on the hour. And then earlier in the morning or later in the afternoon meetings are better. Encouraged early in the morning because the West Coast typically is not active at that point. So let's see, I got another Q&A here. It says, Within Zoom, is the saved recording a proprietary file that you need their software to download, or is it a standard downloadable file like a .mp4? I believe it's the latter. So I'm 90% sure it is just a standard downloadable file. I have the individual that asked that, and so and so I will follow up on that. But again, it's my belief that it is a standard file type that can be uploaded. And let's see here. Matt, I might open it up to you for this question. An individual asked, are there any peripherals, microphone and headsets that work seamlessly across all platforms? I think a lot of the Logitech is, but Matt, can you comment on that? And Matt, I'm just trying to unmute you here. Give me a second.
Okay, yep, thanks. Yeah, so there's a couple ways to look at this. The easiest way to make it totally seamless is to always host it from your own PC or laptop and then use some robust USB peripherals, because that's really the only bulletproof way to run any kind of soft codec you want, even ones that are going to exist next year that will be the next great thing but doesn't exist today. If you buy some really nice USB peripherals, and anymore, USB 3 can handle everything on one cable. So audio, video, you name it, 2 devices, multiple devices. And so that's the real answer, to have a Swiss Army knife. Now, when that isn't practical is when you want to take a room in your office and dedicate it to being, always on without having to have your laptop with you or a built-in, room PC. And then that's when it gets a little more limiting, because you got to pick one and go with it. And so you're going to pick a Zoom room. So you're going to have a touchscreen and a little PC built into maybe a sound bar that has a built-in camera and a microphone. Now, the one that does the best job of having it cover multiple platforms, and the way they accomplish this is you can get into their little web GUI for settings and change modes and then reboot the device. And then it becomes, one time it's a Teams room, and then you get into the settings and hit the slider to make it a Zoom room and reboot it. And then, you get into it and you hit it again for what's called poly mode. And so the one that does the best job of keeping it very agnostic is Poly, which is a brand name. They used to be called Polycom. And so their devices, with a reboot and a reconfiguration in the web GUI, can work on multiple platforms, just not at the same time. Now, this is becoming less of an issue with what I was talking about before, where Zoom and Teams are natively interoperable. But anybody outside of those two, you got to start looking at plugins, third-party items, compromises. And so again, moving into the Poly world, they have a device right now that's called a Trio, which is a star phone, and that has some shortcut ability where you can have one-touch join buttons for multiple platforms, where it takes you into the waiting room of whatever service. So you could have a button on the little screen that the user touches. That's one will say Webex, one will say Zoom, one will say Teams. You tap it, and then you enter in your meeting ID, and then you're off to the races. And so there are ways to put some infrastructure in place, and you're going to be spending more money to make this happen. But if that's really what you're going for, you can do that. My personal recommendation, though, is to narrow the focus. And if you're going to do a dedicated room, either pick Zoom or Teams. And then if you want to branch into a third-party platform, just tell people bring their laptop into the room and then plug into the microphone and the camera that are in the room, because that's a feature that is available nowadays called USB pass-through, where you can use the built-in camera and microphone in your room as your laptop's microphone and camera. And then from your laptop, bring up the web browser for whatever client you want, which would be like Webex or Blue Jeans or whatever. The one that doesn't exist today, but next month a cool one comes out, you'll be able to do it. And so in a nutshell, that would be my approach.
Good. Thanks, Matt. We do have a few other questions. We'll have one for Dale first and then one for Greg David. Dale, the question for you, so it's a general question, but it asks a little bit more specifically for Webex. Can you demonstrate how to share a PowerPoint within a meeting, ideally for Webex? It looks like the same. So I will put mine on share real quick here. I'm going to do a share screen and show it through Zoom. So we'll do Zoom real quick, and so you can see my screen. You can see I got LinkedIn up here. I'm on the iVideo. I'm ready to create a post, right? And so down here, I could have my PowerPoint up in the background and share it that way through Zoom again. So you can see my screen. Another option is on my share side, you can pick, I can do a new share, and I can share specifics, right? There's my email, there's Whiteboard, there's, it's kind of like a file location. So you can pick a specific file type to share and call it broadcast or communicate that way. So that's a, way to do it. Dale, for Webex, what's the best way, or how does one share through Webex?
Absolutely. Now, unfortunately, I'm not able to show you at this time because the Webex that I had been working on downloading, they are being inundated with new accounts at the moment, and they are taking some time to get people set up with their new meeting rooms. But it is really the same thing as in the Zoom, where you have the share button down at the bottom. As long as you have your PowerPoint opened up somewhere on your toolbar, when you pull up more on your, I'm sorry?
That was just a little feedback. Dale, continue, please.
Oh, okay. Sorry there. So it's very much like the Zoom here, where you have down on the bottom toolbar within Zoom, you have the share button, and then that will allow you to pick up and share whatever's on your desktop. If you have your PowerPoint opened up and ready to go, you can select that, hit share, and it'll automatically go out to everybody. Wish I could show you from the Cisco, the Webex side, but unfortunately I cannot right now.
As Dale did mention, it is just about as easy as what I showed for sharing the Zoom presentation. Candidly, really for all these products or solutions, it is best to get in and play with it, right? So, I especially encourage that if you're going to moderate a panel, certainly you want to do a lot of muting and managing controls and throwing around the ability for people to show the presentations. And so I think, I really would just encourage everyone to get in. You can't break it, try to get some work friends together and set up some sessions, and you'll find a lot of neat features. And pretty much everyone on this call is involved in technology one way or another. And I think you'll find that, just like a lot of technologies, just have to get your hands on it. I do want to verify with the individual that asked about the file type for the Zoom recording. It is an MP4, so it is a nice, call it open, non-proprietary file type by Zoom that plays well and integrates well with others. I think we'll have our last question here. This one, as I mentioned, is for Greg David. Greg, maybe I'll give a little bit of an answer, but I'll throw it to you for, to see how you feel on this. So the question is it any easier to use an Outlook plugin for Zoom on organization/company devices? And is it best to connect Zoom via browser for those employees who are using their own personal PC or devices? So a couple of questions, again, about plugin for Zoom and about using, browser. I think, there's a lot of different ways to go through it. To some degree, it depends on your organization. I would say, I think for iVideo, when we're looking at large organizations and we're recommending across-the-board solution implementations, we try to follow the KISS strategy. Keep it simple, stupid. So often less is more. If you're an IT support professional, there can be oftentimes more things for folks to break, more confusion. So, is a plugin necessary? It can be convenient on Outlook for emailing meeting requests. You might get some complaints from some people that they can't do it because they know it's available, right? But again, it is easy just to copy and paste and, schedule it through the portal of Zoom. And then, Greg, how about, using Zoom via browser versus call it the download within the system on their own personal PCs and devices? Any thoughts on that, if there's a better way or, difference in functionalities even between the two?
Yeah, sure. I personally would recommend downloading the software and having it live on your device. You can always join the meeting that way. And if someone just gives you a meeting ID, you can just go and type that into the software on your desktop, and you don't need to find the link online. So it gives you a little more functionality to actually have the software downloaded on your device. So if you have a team of people out there and you're telling them, hey, we're going to have a Zoom call, I would just recommend that everyone go ahead and download it on their device ahead of time.
Now, Greg, if their local users don't have access for direct downloads, is it a big deal for them to continue to use the browser through Zoom, or would you say it's kind of a critical loss if their local PCs due to company protocol can't download? Can they still get through just fine?
No, I think it'll work. I mean, it's a good thing to have in the meantime, but if there's no other option and you can't download it and you have to use the browser, that'll work just fine as well too.
Okay, great. Well, we certainly hope this information and presentation was helpful for those all involved. Certainly, us at iVideo are very conscious about the health and economic environment going on right now, and so those environments, especially that health component, lead to modified workplace environments. And clearly, we want to be here to help as a resource. And we hope this information was good for you. And please just follow up with any of us. All of our contact information is available at all the usual spots. But I want to thank all those on the call and say, we're here to help as needed. Thank you.